Starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
And good evening. If you're joining us this evening, if you're joining us on the replay, it could be good morning, it could be good afternoon. So I want to welcome you to today's episode of the Fireplace Show. And what's the Fireplace Show? That is our broadcast that is designed for consumers across America and across the world. And what we try to do in this is share with you tips, tactics, safety issues, other things about the use of your fireplace, your wood stove, your gas logs, and other things. And tonight, our special subject matter is Christmas time, because Christmas is a time that there is a lot of house fires. And sadly, many times it is connected to Christmas decorations and other things. So tonight, we've got a really great presentation for you that we want to share with you. And just like every episode, I try to find what I consider to be a subject matter expert to assist me in the broadcast. And tonight is no different. And my guest tonight is a gentleman I've known for many years. He's much younger than me. I'm probably old enough to be his grandfather. But anyway, I've known this young man, and his name is Jasper Dringler. And he comes to us from Shawano, Wisconsin. And he is a chimney sweep that owns a company by the name of Chimney Mechanics. Very, very well educated young man. I've had him in classes. He actually does teaching of chimney sweeps now himself. So, Jasper, tell folks a little bit about yourself, please, sir.
Well, Jerry, I've been around fire my entire life. As a child, I actually started my parents' farm on fire once. My life was saved by a smoke detector. I'm a second generation chimney professional. I currently hold 4 industry masters. I have a number of employees that go out, clean, service, and build fireplaces. And this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart because we really are saving lives with the work that we do.
That's it. And what we want to do is, if you're giving us the courtesy of listening, we hope you will have some really good education out of this. If you're watching us on social media, we invite you to share this on your own pages. This is all about giving the consumers of America assistance. And maybe we will save a fire tonight. Maybe we will stop one from happening. And even more so, maybe we will save a life by making people aware. I will tell you, I'm going to show some news clips up here of fires that have occurred in the country, and the things we're going to show you, they are very real life. And Jasper, we don't want this happening to people, do we?
No, not at all. We don't want to scare you from using your fireplace. We simply just want to educate you of the hazards that are there. And with proper maintenance and proper care, you can very safely have a fire in your fireplace.
That's correct. So we're going to play our intro music. Stick around with us, and we'll be right back with you. And we're going to get into tonight's episode, and hopefully it's going to be very beneficial for you. And again, we really appreciate you joining us on a Friday evening. So we want to welcome you back with us. And again, this is Jerry Eisenhower, and this show is sponsored by my company, CBC Success Group. And I'm pleased to have my guest on tonight. His name is Jasper Drengler from Chimney Mechanics. And Jasper, you work all over Wisconsin, down around Chicagoland, all the way over in Indiana, I believe, don't you?
Yeah, those 3 areas are our primary service. I've gone as far as Arizona to work on fireplaces, up through the Northeast and Northwest. I have a little bit of a niche as far as doing historical renovations, so that makes me travel a lot. But our primary service area is the state of Wisconsin, Chicago suburbs, and Indianapolis.
Okay. And so, like say, the title of tonight's show is We Want This the Christmas to Be a Time for Memories and Not for Tragedies. And sadly, every year we hear of cases that it has turned into tragedy. And we're going to show you some of those tonight. And it's going to be some really somber looks, but hopefully it will reinforce to you what we're talking about on tonight's show. Because it's all about tonight is all about how do you create these memories to really go, to be safe for your Christmas time. So Jasper, what's your reasoning for being on here with me on a Friday night?
Well, it's really simple. I've got 4 children, and I tell my guys all the time to treat everyone's home as if your kids are going to stay there. And I can't stand the loss of homes or the loss of life through negligence or something that could have very easily been prevented. That just, it hurts me. So anything we can do to spread how to safely use your fireplace, dispose of your ashes, and enjoy your fire, I'm all about.
That's it. And Jasper, do you encounter in your daily work a lot of times conditions and situations and installations that could be well life threatening? Do you see many of those in your daily work or for the guys that work for you and go into the field?
Every single day. Every single day, we see houses that were built with either before a code was written or with complete negligence or arrogance that a code even exists.
That's it. So it's a real problem. So as you're looking at it, here is a classic, just American home, American fireplace. And as you look at this could be your home. It could be a home that you've been into. So as you look at this, I'm going to change the photo in just a second, and you're going to see a lot of yellow arrows click up on here. But Jasper, when you look at this picture, what jumps out at you from a fire safety aspect that gives you alarm in this photo, my friend?
Well, that's amazing, Jerry. Between your eyes and mine, we look at this and there's your yellow arrows. We see all the hazards. As a normal um, person who enjoys a fire, we look at it's a beautiful setting. There's a tree, there's a gift, there's presents, there's things hanging. But as a fire professional, all I want to do is turn that fire off as fast as possible.
That's it. So when you look at it, I've got a whole bunch of yellow arrows, and you'll see there's a big yellow circle up there right around the mantle shelf. Now, what these are pointing out is some of the common fire hazards that we see out there many times. And one of them is, we always hear about hanging your stockings from the mantle with care, chestnuts roasting on the open fire. So, Jasper, when you look at those stockings hung with care, what's your thoughts?
They're gonna be the fire before you know it. I've got some customers that we get their fireplace all ready for the holidays, and they tell us how they can't wait to use it till after the holidays are over, and that makes me happy. But it is amazing how many times I walk into a home and they have to move the stocking so that I can service their fireplace, but they think it's okay to put them back up and use it as soon as I leave. And we constantly just have to educate people about the fire danger.
Right. And when you look above that fireplace and see that greenery right there, which is probably pine, it's probably a natural product. And even if it's plastic, it could still be a problem if it's artificial. Does that kind of make you shudder about the heat that could ignite that wreath in the middle of the night?
It does. And it's not just the Christmas decorations on the mantles either, Jerry. I find melted picture frames, melted candles. I find all kinds of things sitting on mantles that don't meet clearances or, have combustible items sitting on them that are a fire hazard.
Right. And then when you look at the floor, you can see that this fireplace does not have a hearth extension. And what we're supposed to have, and it depends on the size of the fireplace, we should have a 16 to 20-inch projection out of that fireplace of a non-combustible hearth. And if we look, I got an arrow pointing right down at that hardwood floor sitting there. That could also be a problem because there is not adequate hearth protection there. Would you agree with me?
Absolutely. And sometimes, this one's hardwood floor. So if an ember lands on that, it might not flare up immediately. But it's amazing how many times I go into a home and there's holes burnt in the carpeting that's going right up to the fireplace. That you'd think after the first time it burnt, they'd replace it or, take care of it. But it's scary, some of the stuff we find.
Right. And then we look over to the right, and what do we see? We see those presents, and we see that Christmas tree. And yeah, it looks good right beside that fireplace. But do you agree with me that those things are actually too close to that fireplace? And that could wake somebody in the middle of the night when their smoke alarm goes off?
It's a fire waiting to happen. I don't see a Christmas tree and presents, Jerry. I see kindling and fire starters.
That's it. So these are, we wanted to show you this photo to give you an idea of some of the dangers that lurk in America's homes all across the country. So again, feel free to share this show out to your friends. You may help save a life out there yourself tonight. So again, here's another photo, Jasper. And as you see this, we got those stockings hanging down again right there. And
And
you see all that stuff?
the scary thing is, Christmas Day will be the busiest our office is all year for emergency calls. And we will see all of our friends on social media posting the fire in their fireplace with the stockings there. And Jerry, there's one other thing that we need to mention. When we see these fireplaces in the previous photo and this one, it doesn't matter if it's burning wood or gas or even a pellet stove in there. Regardless of the fuel source, these are combustible materials that are way too close to the heat.
Yeah, and then you see, and I've added some errors there because that furniture, it's way too close. When you look that mantle, it doesn't look like it has proper clearance, and actually the mantle looks a little brown where it's charred. Then we got a box of books or presents or something there. Again, these are the things that give us heartburn. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Every time, and I don't care if that mantle's been there for 15 years or 50 years, every time you heat up that piece of wood, you're getting it closer to a fire.
Yep.
You lower its moisture content. So, the excuse of it's been there for 20 years or grandpa built it, you're just getting closer to having a problem.
Yep, that's the way it is. So again, there's all kinds of problems out there. And it's not just fireplaces. Jasper, when you look at that picture of that wood burning stove, what jumps out at you, my friend?
Well, we all know that every stove manufacturer has its own clearances, but I guarantee you there's no stove manufacturer that allows the wood that close to the firebox. And still, I have homeowners, when I walk into their house and I see this exact thing, they'll tell me, well, we're just drying the wood out before we burn it. They're never, no. You cannot use your stove like that. You're stockpiling a fuel source next to a heat source. No good will come of that.
It's not. It's a process. Jasper, one of the processes that we learn in our training is called pyrolysis. And pyrolysis is where the ignition temperature of the wood drops as it is heated. And a lot of people don't understand. You really don't have to have an open flame to start a fire. The heat is what actually starts a fire. So, what additional cautions would you give people about storing that wood like that? How far away does it need to be, brother?
So an unlisted stove is 36 inches. If your stove has a listing, it'll actually tell you on the data plate on the back of how far it needs to be from any combustibles in any direction. It'll also tell you how much clearance you need on the floor, the sides, and the back. And if you look at the pipe coming off the top of the stove, a lot of times it's going to tell you the clearances for that pipe as well. It's amazing how many times I see these connector pipes coming off of the stove and they're 6 inches away from the ceiling. Now, 6 inches is okay if you've got a double wall pipe and the stove is listed for that, but single wall pipe coming off of a wood stove should be 18 inches from anything combustible.
Yeah. So we got a lot of clearance issues here, and that's what we're showing you because this is a big issue that can start house fires. So I wanted to share this with you. Like I said, these are the things you need to be looking at. And one of the disturbing things I see, Jasper, is I watch a lot of Facebook groups that are consumers that have wood. We see wood stacked up on top of wood stoves, drying it out, and it's really alarming. We're not the chimney police, we're not the safety police, but what our job is we want to share the most education with you because again, we want you to make Christmas memories, not make Christmas tragedies and where you make an ash out of your home or your loved ones. And see, that's what you're looking for. That's to me, that says Christmas. That's right there, Christmas Eve. Hey, we're getting ready for Santa to come in. The family's gathered around. It's all about the light, but this is what you need to do. Jasper, why do they need to add water to that Christmas tree?
Well, one, to keep the needles on it, Jerry. Everybody knows that. But the real reason you need to keep that tree watered is because it has to maintain its moisture. The faster it dries out, the closer it's going to be to actually starting on fire. And not just from the fireplace. The lights that you put on your trees are going to generate heat by themselves. Like you said earlier, you don't need flame to start a fire. A light bulb can start a fire just as easily. So keep them watered, keep them moist, or unfortunately use a plastic one.
That's it. So there's different ways, but you got to look at this because that's a big one. Those needles dry out. And like I said, one of the things is you don't want the needles falling off in the floor. They make a big mess. But I'm going to tell you something. I've seen Christmas trees lit up in a demonstration, and it is amazing how fast that evergreen can catch on fire and just teetotally demolish a structure. So be very aware of this stuff. Now, this is a big warning here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the one on the right in just a minute. But we don't want to burn Christmas trees or gift wrapping in your fireplace. When you look at that photo on the right, that is a real life photo of a consumer in McKinney, Texas. And what they decided to do was they were going to burn their Christmas tree in the fireplace. And they started shoving it in, and this fire went up the wall because once it caught on fire. So we shudder from these type of things. And also, if you burn gift wrapping, what can happen is the fire can completely get out of control very rapidly by burning gift wrapping, your wrapping papers, your boxes, your cardboard. That's not what a fireplace is for. So what thoughts come to your mind, Jasper, as you see this?
So when you burn that paper, not only can it transfer the fire from the firebox to the smoke chamber of the flue, but it's amazing how many times I find wrapping paper stuck in the screen on the chimney cap, which is then going to stop the smoke from escaping the system. So that's a problem all by itself. Burning the Christmas tree in the fireplace is, but to me, just doesn't make any sense. I've lit Christmas trees on fire out in the field and watched how fast they burn. Um, we Part of me wants to laugh at it because it should be not even considered, but at the same time, this isn't the first time we've heard of this happening. I've heard of customers doing the same with regular firewood. It doesn't fit, so they just put one end in and keep kicking it as it burns. You can't do that in your home.
Right. And so we're going to tell you a little stories about ourselves tonight and our time before we got in this business. I'm going to tell you a little story. Jasper's got a little tale from his younger days. But back before I got in the chimney business, and was one of the things that got me in this business was it was a January day, Jasper, and the Super Bowl was on. Well, this was a couple weeks after Christmas, and the tree had done been taken down, and it was laying out in the backyard, ready to be hauled off to the street. Well, I had a fireplace, and I decided, I think I'm going to start a fire. And I went there and broke some branches off of that Christmas tree, and I put them in the fireplace, and they started burning. And I went back to watching the football game. Well, it was a sunny January day, and there was a window over beside the fireplace. And all of a sudden, I looked out, and it's like it's getting cloudy out there. The sun is gone away. And I finally walked outside, and my whole backyard was filled up with smoke because what happened, I caught my own chimney on fire. Now, what made this worse was I was a volunteer fireman. So the next thing I had to do was call all my buddies at the fire department to come put my chimney out. And that was kind of an embarrassing thing, but that's me. And that was pre my education of the problem that could be. What about you, Jasper? You got any stories from your past you'd share with the listeners?
Yeah, when I was younger, I was just a little tyke and I had a blankie and I threw it on a space heater and it ignited right in front of me. So what did I do? I crawled back in my crib because I'm not going to get yelled at for starting a fire. Luckily, we had smoke detectors in every room. The smoke detectors went nuts. My dad came in and scooped us out and they got the fire put out. But I burnt out an entire room of our house as a little kid. So fire safety has always been a big deal in our households. Like I said, I'm a parent. I've got 4 kids. I will not let someone start a fire in their house that I won't let them start in my own. It's not something to play around with. If you have a certified technician come out and tell you that something's not safe, listen to them. You take the advice of any other professional. It's just, these wood heat groups and other things we find on Facebook. As a professional, we try to give them some advice and teach them how to do things safely. And I found myself getting kicked out of one for giving advice on one of the pages. It's just crazy how it falls on deaf ears sometimes. But, Christmas decorations can be absolutely gorgeous in your house. I see many beautifully lit trees, but it's all flammable. It can be a fire hazard. And like I said, our three busiest days of the year for our emergency call center is Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. It's when the house is full of people, you're tempted to throw something on the fire and have the fire burning all day long. And if you're only going to use your fireplace once a year, it's going to be Christmas.
Yeah. And we've told you two stories about ourselves. Now, Jasper was a young child. He was still in the crib. So, at that age, you can't really blame him. We had to blame his mom and daddy for taking their eyes off of him at that. But when I did my episode, hey, I was a grown man. I had kids and all that. And I still pulled that stupid stunt of trying to burn my Christmas tree up and, learn from there of what you got to do to stay safe. Okay. Now, this is a biggie, and this is really big, folks. And this is all about the ashes. Because to be honest with you, every single year we hear about house fires and fatalities from improper disposal or storage of ashes. And what you got to have to put those in is a bucket with a tight fitting lid. But it goes more than that. Jasper, one time, in my work, I do investigative work for insurance companies. And there was a house in the Pittsburgh market area that had caught on fire and took a total loss. And the reason was they took the bucket of ashes and put it on a wooden deck and caught the deck on fire. Now, I've also got a picture there of something to keep you from getting burnt, which is some long-handled leather gloves. Because you ever look at many wood burners, Jasper, do you ever notice how your customers got burn marks on their arms all the time?
Yeah, that can happen.
It can happen. So those type of things. So I'm going to pull up a news story, Jasper. Tell them what your thoughts are as you look at what we're looking at right now, brother.
So fireplace ashes, it's amazing how many times people will go and shovel them out the next morning and not really care about it. As a professional who cleans a lot of fireplaces, it's amazing how you can go to their house. They will tell you they haven't used it for a number of days. And yet while I'm cleaning it, I'm finding hot embers. I'm finding radiant heat still in the masonry. There's a lot of thermal mass there that absorbs the heat and then releases it over a period of time in a masonry structure. But those embers can hide in those ashes and stay hot for a long time.
Yeah. And one thing that many chimney sweeps have done, Jasper, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but a lot of times a chimney sweep will actually suck a hot ember from those ashes up in their chimney sweep vacuum and catch them on fire. But I can top that one because one time, again, before I was in this industry, I actually took my wife's vacuum cleaner and I decided it was time to clean the fireplace up really good. So I got all the ashes and shoveled them out, and there was just a little bit around the outside edge. So I got her Singer vacuum cleaner and went there to suck it all up, clean it all up. And I needed to go to Sears to the hardware store. Well, I got to Sears, and that was before we carried mobile phones, and they were paging me over the intercom. And I went back there, and my wife was on the phone telling me that vacuum cleaner had caught fire in our master bedroom closet. Okay. So we all pull these stupid stunts in our life. Would you agree with that?
Unfortunately, yes. I have homeowners all the time. I'll walk into their house for an appointment, and dust is as thick as can be, and they've taken a vacuum that wasn't designed to suck up ashes, and they've completely made a mess of their house. And it's something you have to be careful with. And like I said, I've gone into fireplaces when there's a thick bed of ashes there, started vacuuming, and next thing you know, I've got smoldering coals exposed.
Yep. So anyway, I'm going to play a news story for you. This is from CBS News, and this is a very, very drastic, graphic news story. And this is about a tragedy that occurred in Stamford, Connecticut of several years ago concerning ashes. So I'm going to go to that right now and play that news clip.
Crews tore down a Connecticut home where 3 children and their grandparents died in a fire Christmas morning. Cell phone video shows how flames quickly spread through the house just before 5 a.m.
First units on the scene attempted rescues within the structure that were pushed back by intense flame and heat.
The fire gutted the Victorian-style home that sits along the Long Island Sound. A well-known advertising executive, Madonna Badger, owns the house and escaped, along with a male contractor who was helping with the renovation. But Badger's 3 daughters, a 10-year-old and twin 7-year-olds, and her parents could not get out. Her father died in the fire hours after spending Christmas Eve working as Santa Claus at Saks Fifth Avenue in New York City.
It's a tragedy. It's tragic and it's heartbreaking.
It's just so terribly sad. You would hope that everybody would have gotten out at least, and so they'd be alive to enjoy another Christmas.
Monday, neighbors dropped off flowers for the victims while investigators worked to figure out what sparked the deadly fire.
So, Jasper, as you watch that, you're a father of 4. Am I correct when you said that a while ago?
Yes, sir.
And I've got 5 kids, including my stepchildren, and I've got 9 grandchildren. I don't know how either of us would even carry on if that happened while we were away from home. Would you agree?
The worst part is it's completely avoidable. That's the hard part, Jerry.
It truly is, because if you read the research, and that's what I've done on this particular incident, what started this fire was improper disposal of ashes. Because what they did, they took the ashes out of the fireplace and they put them in a cardboard box and they put them in the laundry room. Think about that for a minute. They put them in the laundry room, and those ashes were in that cardboard box, and they went to bed. And later that night, that was the tragedy. And that's one of the things that we see every year, it seems like, is a tragedy connected with ashes. So, Jasper, is there anything you would share about ashes and proper handling and that kind of stuff?
So I clean my wood burner out, my ashes out once a week. While the wood burner is still hot, they go into a metal container with a lid on it. They get set on a concrete slab with nothing within about 36 inches of it. And they sit there for a good week before I actually empty that bucket. There's no excuse for this. And we might hear a story like this once in a while where there's a tragedy, but there are many, many small towns that have houses burned down because of ashes. Every single year, there's municipal garbage trucks that burn down and catch fire because someone threw their ashes out into their garbage can, still warm. People's garages burned down. It's nonstop. We don't hear about most of these stories, but it's sad that it takes a tragedy to get the word out about it.
It really does. So again, get a bucket to put your ashes in. It needs a tight fitting lid. Keeping in mind, these ashes can stay hot for a number of days. Don't just randomly go spread them around. Ashes are really good for your garden, but at the same time, you want to make sure you're doing this safely when you're doing it, as safe as you can. Now, here's another safety issue, and this is not really with fireplaces, but we want to bring it up, and that is overloaded electrical circuits. And many times that's what we do. We overload the circuits that's plugged in. And this could be going also to a little electric heater or whatever. But these things can catch on fire. You can also have a fire from your Christmas tree lights. That's why you want to make sure that your lights are always UL listed by Underwriters Laboratory. So what would you add in about the electrical system and the potential for overloads here?
Well, it's amazing how many times, I've done it in my own house. I found an extension cord, or I found an outlet that's gotten a little hot at some point, and somehow it didn't cause a problem. But could you imagine if this little octopus of outlets was underneath your tree, and your tree was drying out, and all of those nails were landing on it? It's just a perfect storm. I don't care what the cause of the fire is. I just don't want anybody's house to burn down. We all love firemen, but we don't need them coming over for Christmas to put our houses out.
Again, those are not the kind of memories that you want to make. When I look back at that Stanford house fire, and I'm thinking about the mother that survived that fire, and she has to go through life knowing these type of things and what this is like from an emotional standpoint to have to deal with this type of situation. So, Jasper, would you agree that a lot of folks don't know how to open and close the damper? What do you think about that?
I can promise you a lot of people don't even know that they have a damper, and especially don't know how to open and close it, because every single year, I would say we go to 30 to 40 houses that are full of smoke. We open the damper and magically the smoke starts going away.
Right. And another problem, have you ever seen consumers that want to get more heat of the fireplace and they want to close, they think that the damper is actually something to control the fire with, and they're actually having smoke spillage in their room because they don't open it all the way. Would you agree with that?
That is very true. The terminology is gets confused with homeowners as well. Even if you just go from one part of the country to the other, the terminology of the parts of the fireplace get confused. The damper, the flue, but the damper is the part that opens and closes the flue only when you're not using it. And just like when we were talking about the ashes keeping warm and flaring back up, don't close the damper before you go to bed. Leave the damper open until at least the next morning or until after you've removed the ashes and into your safe metal bucket, and then close the damper to stop the airflow.
Right. And one of the things, Jasper, a lot of people have what we call a non-self-starting chimney or a slow-starting chimney, where they come in, they open the damper, and then the fire smokes back in the house. So a couple things that I advise people to do. Number one, if you open that damper and you feel cold air coming down and hitting your hand, it means that air is pulling down the chimney. And if the air is pulling down the chimney and you try to start a fire, you're going to have smoke in your eyes. So would you share with people, how do you start a chimney to get it going when you have that situation, Jasper?
So there's a couple different ways to preheat the flue or reverse the airflow. The easiest thing to do is just try cracking a window in the same room as the fireplace to see if you can reverse the flow up the fireplace. If that doesn't do it quickly enough, use a hairdryer. Use something that'll produce heat without making smoke. Sometimes lighting a single piece of newspaper and holding it up the throat of the chimney will work. Other fireplaces I've installed fans on to create negative pressure in the flue to induce the draft. Some people have gas log lighters. Those aren't legal in all parts of the country, but they definitely work. But if you're getting smoke in the house while using your fireplace, you have a problem. It might not be the fireplace. It might be the house is too airtight. But if you're getting smoke in the fire into the home anytime using your fireplace, you need to call a professional.
Right. And you just hit another key point, which is combustion air, because for that fireplace to operate, we've got to have air for the combustion process. So I know down here in North Carolina and a lot of places I travel, a lot of houses simply don't have enough air, and you got to open up a window or open a door or have the air pumped into the house. What do you see in the areas that you work in as far as negative pressure issues that cause poor performance, Jasper?
Well, yes, we all want to make our houses airtight because we don't like to overpay on our utilities. But the physics of a fireplace are also unique. We build these nice big tall chimneys and they have great potential for draft, but they don't have initial flow. And we all think hot air rises, but really you should think about it as cold air falls and hot air gets out of the way. So when you've got a tall 30-foot column of cold air pushing down on that fireplace, it's going to take a lot to reverse that force. And yeah, the worst thing I've seen in the last few years is the over insulating of homes. You know, we're sealing up the windows, we're sealing up the attics, we're trying to stop the airflow. And then people think their fireplace just isn't working right when really the house isn't breathing properly.
Yeah, and it's a real problem. So again, Jasper, is that a time to call a chimney sweep to come look that can actually work with them to help them resolve these negative pressure issues?
So some chimney sweeps are getting into the home air issues. I know our company, we do check houses for airflow. We make sure that all your appliances are venting properly, not just your fireplaces, but your water heaters and your furnaces. Some chimney sweeps just clean the chimney and inspect the chimney. So ask those questions when you're going looking up local companies. Make sure they're certified and ask those questions. Is this something that you'll look at for me? Some will say yes and some will say no.
Right. But there's other people that can out there, and we're going to give you a source in a minute for associations and educational foundations that you can actually contact that can give you referrals to people in your market area. And that will be part before we end this broadcast tonight. So that'll be coming up too. So this is a biggie here, and this is one I often tell. I hear a consumer tell me, Jasper, I love the smell of burning wood when I'm burning my fireplace. And I tell them, hey, if you're smelling wood burning in your home, you got a problem. What's your thought on that? Would you agree with me that when I sit on the couch and I smell that wood burning, does it mean I got a issue? I got a problem?
It absolutely does, Jerry. So the one thing I want to caution though is a lot of times when you have an air circulating fireplace, the first fire of the fall is going to smell a little bit from burning off dust and so on. But if you're regularly getting smoke into your house or smell anything burning, I would have that checked out. It might not just be your firebox smoke, but a lot of times on some of these older prefabricated fireplaces, we're finding plastic sheeting and other things that have fallen against the chimney over time and started to melt. And every time you have a fire, you're just smoldering a little bit of your house away.
Right. And you hit a key thing that people need to be aware of. In today's world, many times they are using a factory built fireplace, could be burning wood, could be burning gas, that was installed in the home. And the problem here is these appliances have a lifespan. I mean, I have seen factory built fireplaces that were damaged by water entry and other things and rust and corrosion that have a 5 year or less lifespan. So here's the question, Jasper. If somebody has a factory built fireplace in their home and that fireplace is now rusted out, corroded, determined to be unusable, what do they do? What do they do when they have this situation, Jasper?
Well, what you have to think about that prefab fireplace is just like your dishwasher or your pedestal TV. It's just another appliance in your home. And when it reaches the end of its life cycle, you replace it. The whole fireplace comes out, a new one can be installed, just like a built-in dishwasher. And now, just like when you buy your new appliances, you buy that new dryer, but you upgrade the washer because you want it to match. Well, it's the same thing with your fireplace. We're upgrading it. Let's bring your 70s fireplace up so it looks, I mean, maybe it might be still look cool, but let's update your fireplace, put a facelift on it, new stone, new brick. Let's make it yours. And most of all, let's just make sure it's safe.
Yeah. And so people are aware this is the type of training that both you and I do with the industry team members. In fact, you do a training in the field up there. I've done training for years. We call it a fireplace change out. Some people call it a rip and replace. But yes, that fireplace can be replaced in that wall without demolishing your home. You agree?
Absolutely. In just a couple days too. It might sound scary and daunting to tear out a fireplace. But it's amazing. People are amazed when in 45 minutes to an hour and a half, I sometimes have their entire fireplace out of their house.
Yeah, it is. It's not that big a deal. And that's what our people are, we're training them to do. And there's a lot of people doing that. So, again, one of the things to be aware of is the National Fire Protection Association recommends the following: an annual inspection of the chimney. It doesn't say you got to sweep it once a year, but what it does say is it should be inspected once a year and then cleaned as needed. And some people don't need it cleaned every year. Some people may need it cleaned twice a year. But the big thing is the inspection. Jasper, why is that inspection on an annual basis so important?
Well, a lot of people think that if they have the chimney inspector and they buy the house, they're set until they sell it. Well, that's not true. Like we talked about the prefabricated fireplaces, water can get in there and do a lot of damage over the years. But it's the same thing with your masonry chimney. If water gets in there or animals build a nest, clay tiles can crack, expansion joints can fail. There's a lot of things that can happen to your chimney over the course of a year that could make it from satisfactory one year to unsatisfactory the next. And you don't know unless you get in there with the right tools and know what you're looking for to make sure you don't have a disaster.
Right. I want to make it real evident to everybody that's listening to us. If you think a chimney sweep is a janitor, you're sadly mistaken. I'll give you an example. I have a training platform for chimney sweeps that chimney sweeps use across the country. Jasper, today I have 767 courses about all phases of chimneys and chimney inspections and things to do to be successful. So there's a lot to learn to be a skilled chimney technician. Would you agree with that?
Oh, there absolutely is. I took my very first certification test in 1998. I've acquired 4 different masters in our industry, and I still am learning things weekly. I still run into things for the very first time. It's a never-ending thing. So, when you're looking for your chimney sweep, interview them, see what kind of credentials they have. And, if they got certified 20 years ago and haven't done any continuing education, they might be a little bit behind. It's a nonstop evolution in our field.
It really, really is. But I just want you to make aware, I've trained guys in this industry for over 35 years. I can remember Jasper being in classes of mine, much younger age. He's not that old at this point, but a much younger time. I can remember having you in class in one town, Madison, Wisconsin, one time, So, and that's what it's all about, because we keep learning. And to share with you, even to prepare for this show tonight, one of the things I did earlier today is I went on to a chimney sweep Facebook forum and I asked the question, what kind of problems do you see at Christmas time related to the fireplace? So what I went out for was, if there was anything, because I wanted to cover this as completely as I could tonight for the people that were watching us. And that's what this industry does. Jasper, would you agree that chimney sweeps communicate with each other probably better than any industry there is in America?
Oh, Jerry, we absolutely do. I held a training venture early this spring, and I had competitors from my own area show up, and we trade ideas and we train and we work together. And yes, we're competitive amongst each other, but we want homeowners to be safe. We want to make sure that we are delivering the best technician possible to their door. We want them to wake up the next morning, and we want you to enjoy your fire at Christmas this year. We really do. I love seeing my customers posting photos of a fire in their fireplace all over social media. I absolutely love it. It makes me smile, but I want them to be safe.
Right. Now, I got a little thing here called gas log tips, because a lot of people use gas logs. Now, Jasper, I'm in the capital of vent-free logs in the Carolinas. I mean, there's a bunch of people got these. So I want to enter a couple cautions if you're on here. Okay, a vent-free gas log has this couple requirements. Number one, if you have vent-free in your fireplace, you should never use it over 4 hours in a 24-hour time frame. Number two, you should always open a window in the room the unit is in. That is to bring fresh air in for ventilation of that logs. Even though they're called vent-free, they're still producing some pollutants. The next thing is, a vent-free gas log is not a heater. It is not a furnace. It's not intended to heat your home. So I don't know. It's vent-free. I don't believe is used that much up in Wisconsin, is it, Jasper?
So vent-free is actually illegal in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan in our service areas there. It is legal in Indiana and Illinois. I'm not a fan, simply because, like you said, they're not a heating appliance. People think, oh, there's fire and you can sit in front of it. And yes, it does produce heat. But if you're bringing enough fresh air, and like you said, 4 hours, the biggest problem with the vent-free are when we have these crazy cold snaps or we have power outages and people attempt to heat their houses with them. And then we hear about other tragedies.
Right. Now, another type of gas log, and this is legal up in Wisconsin, is what we call a vented gas log. And a vented gas log, it is just like burning wood. It takes the room air for combustion air, goes through the combustion process, and cycles it up the chimney. Now, a vented gas log is going to give you a little bit of heat in the room, but it's not going to give you a lot of heat. The purpose of a vented gas log, that's to give you the romance of the fire. So is there anything you would add in about vented gas logs, Jasper?
Jerry, I love vented gas logs. Like you said, they're not efficient. It's an open hearth, an open flame, so a lot of the heat's going to go up the chimney. But I absolutely love gas logs because you can push a button and have fire. And then when you want to go to bed, you push a button and it's gone. You still have to remember it's a real fire. There's still some real hazards. Your chimney still has to be in good, usable, serviceable condition. That's one time that I find people making mistakes. They assume that because it's gas, suddenly they don't have to adhere to all of the codes and standards. But your fireplace needs to be safe and operable for wood just like it would with a gas vented log system.
Correct. So if a customer told you, Jasper, hey, okay, I got problems in my chimney. I'm just going to install some gas logs in there. What would be your answer to that consumer?
We still have to do the same recommended repairs for the wood burning as we do for the gas logs. There might be another option with a sealed gas unit or something else, or electric.
Yeah.
But if you want an open hearth fireplace, the codes are the same for the vented gas log. It says right in their manufacturer's instructions, must be installed in a serviceable masonry fireplace.
Right. So the key thing is understand if you got vent-free logs that they're legal where you sell. Now, Jasper, the bad thing is even though they're not legal in Wisconsin, people can order these off the World Wide Web, so they can still get them. So even though they're not legal per se, you may have some up there. So if you have them, be aware of how to treat them. Now, Jasper, there's a third type of gas technology that's been out for about 25 years now, and it's called direct vent. What's your feeling about direct vent?
Direct vent is awesome, Jerry. It's basically a high efficiency furnace disguised as a fireplace. They're very efficient. A lot of them are getting to the 80s. A couple of them claim even higher than that. But a direct vent gas appliance is when you want to enjoy the look of a fireplace, but have all the efficiencies of a modern furnace. We install, build, and sell a lot of them. I just put one in my own house. I got sick of carrying the wood across the carpeting, and I wanted to push a button. Mine's actually hooked up to a thermostat. I can turn my fireplace on with my cell phone, and it changes the heat output based on what I have the thermostat setting at.
Yeah, and my wife is sitting upstairs in our family room right now, and I can guarantee you she's watching TV that's right over a direct vent fireplace. And we've done a lot of shows about direct vent. But the key with direct vent, what makes it so great is it doesn't use your room air for combustion air. It pulls the combustion air from outside, goes through the combustion process, and then vents it back outside. And they can be vented through the wall, it can be vented above the roof. And believe it or not, there are some units can even be vented through the crawl space, but it's got to have an auxiliary fan to pull that through. So again, and we'll talk about where to get the type person to give you this advice, but there's all types of different gas appliances. And keep it in mind, hearth appliances, gas appliances are different from a furnace, from a water heater, and you need a specialist. And we'll talk about where to get these specialists here in just a minute in this show. So here's two of our colleagues, man. Look it up there. There's a guy looking down that flue with a flashlight. But a lot of chimney sweeps go to a further step. And if you look at the guy sitting there on his knees beside the fireplace, you see what he's doing, Jasper?
And it looks like he's scanning the chimney with a camera system.
Correct. So what many chimney sweeps do, a camera system to inspect the interior of the chimney was designed by a friend of mine by the name of Tom Urban, who lives in Iowa, in the early 80s. And what this is a small video camera that's inserted up into the flue, and then we have a monitor sitting on the floor. So Jasper is a chimney sweep. Why is this better than that guy sitting up there with the flashlight? Can he see everything in that chimney with that flashlight, brother?
I can tell you for sure that you cannot see everything with a simple flashlight in most cases. Most chimneys are not built perfectly straight to start with. You can't see around the damper sometimes, and you can't look through the mortar joints between the clay tiles. The flashlight will give you one point of reference from the top or the bottom, but you can't look directly at those joints to make sure they haven't been washed out.
Right. And when we look at that chimney, these are the things I like for consumers to know. What are the things you can look for on your own chimney that says you may have a problem? So when I look at that brick chimney sticking up there, Jasper, I see mortar joints that are starting to deteriorate right below where that brick projects out. And then I'm also seeing discoloration of that chimney. So what does that tell you about the chimney that guy is looking down with the flashlight without ever looking down that chimney? What are you already seeing here as an expert?
So I know there's water issues of some sort based off the construction, but I'm also willing to guess that based on the staining on the chimney, that one of those flues is servicing a wood burning fireplace and the other one is probably servicing a gas appliance And I'm going to bet that the mortar joints between the clay tiles are washed out.
Okay. And okay, so you just said something. Do you think everybody knows that there's a problem with potential gas flues by chance? Is that a problem for
It, it
central heating systems?
It's a huge problem. It's amazing how many times people will call us out to look at their fireplaces because we've done a really good job of teaching our customers that fireplaces need to be inspected, serviced, and cleaned. But it's amazing how many times we come out to look at the fireplace, and while we're looking at it, we'll take a look at the furnace flue, and they've got an absolute disaster there. They'll have a clay tile collapsed. It'll be full of a bird nest. The joints will be washed out. The liner will be cracked. The thimble will be rusted out. It's absolutely amazing things that we find that the homeowner just didn't even think of having it looked at.
Yep, it is. So again, and we'll talk in a minute about where to go to get the assistance. And again, this is my company's production. We do not work for consumers. What we're doing tonight is not to promote what I do. What I'm doing tonight with this show is we're trying to share with you the expertise of the people like Jasper on this show. Okay. So this is key. Will Santa be happy when he looks down your chimney on Christmas Eve? Is this going to be a chimney that he's going to go down? Let me ask you a question, Jasper. Does it look like Santa's got a few doubts about going down that chimney right there?
Yeah, that brickwork looks like it's seen better days. I doesn't appear to have a liner in it. I'm a little scared that there's going to be some problems with this chimney.
Yep, and I am too. And that's the key thing. When Santa's standing up there, I'm sure you want him to feel invited. I don't care how many cookies and milk you got down there waiting on him on the coffee table. If he don't want to take his, down that chimney, you're probably going to have your kids aren't going to be happy. I remember one time my son Jasper, I stuck some, you always hear about putting sticks in the switches in the stocking. And I can still remember one of my sons, I actually did that to him one year at Christmas. I stuffed him in his stocking. So he come running out Christmas morning and his stocking was full of hickory switches. Do you ever do that to your kids?
No, Jerry, I haven't.
I've kind of got a warm sense of humor. It's like, hey, I'll get you back one day. But that's the goal. Again, the goal is, hey, it's great for Santa Claus to come down. It's great to have the Christmas memories. It really is a great feeling to be this. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to be a tragedy. I'm serious. Don't make yourself a tragedy. Don't make yourself a statistic. It's not where you really want to be. It's not going to make a good Christmas at all. What would you think about Santa Claus being there? You want to make him happy?
Well, absolutely. I don't want him to have to breathe in all that soot. I don't want him to have to show up to a house full of ashes. And one more thing, Jerry, we hear stories about it every single year around this time of year. Only the real Santa Claus can go up and down chimneys, Jerry. Let's not pretend to be Santa for our kids. It won't end well for you.
That's it. Okay. So but remember that one. And that's another factor. Sometimes some people do try to do that. And we see news stories about people stuck in chimneys sometime, and that ain't what's supposed to be in there. So again, make Christmas memories, not a Christmas tragedy. That's been the whole purpose of why we've been on this show tonight. So again, one of the problems right now, Jasper, we're a couple weeks before Christmas. And the problem with this point is people may not be able to get a chimney sweep to them because there's a lot of demand out there right now. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say most reputable companies are booked out well past the new year right now. Unless you get lucky and they had a cancellation, the chances of you calling and making an appointment before Christmas are very, very limited. Some companies might offer an after hours fee or a large fee to come out on a weekend. It happens every year. And we just can't take care of everybody. We can't just hire someone today and have them be a chimney sweep tomorrow. It takes months and months of training. So we can't just hire temporary help when the demand gets up like it is right now.
That's it, because you're not going to send somebody out that don't know what they're doing. That will be a disservice to your customers. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Jasper, let's tell people what to look for out there as they're looking for a chimney sweep. We're going to give you a couple of certifying agencies to look at. And one is going to be the Certified Chimney Professional Program, and that is called the CCP for the short, and it is sponsored by and owned by the National Chimney Sweep Guild. Now, Jasper is a past president of that organization, and I'm also a past president of that some years ago. So what I posted there is the website for NCSG, which is the National Chimney Sweep Guild. So if you're looking for a certified professional and under that banner, go to that website. Jasper, will they be able to guide them there to finding a competent technician at the NCSG?
Absolutely. I send all of my technicians there for schooling, and that's the starting point. I've managed to get the CCP master credential as well. It's a good starting point for a certification. Absolutely.
Correct. Now, another certification for the chimney sweep is the CSIA certified chimney sweep. And Jasper, I believe you are dual certified. Is that correct under both these organizations?
I actually triple. I
Okay.
have my master for the CSIA. That was actually the very first test I took it back in 1998. The CSIA, their whole mission is to educate chimney sweeps, just like the NCSG. And again, if you find someone that's got a master certification in either, or even just the basic certified chimney sweep, that's a good starting point in hiring a technician.
Okay. Also, the National Chimney Sweep Guild, that is a trade association that does have this certification. So one of the things is to look for a company that's ahead of the curve should they be a member of the National Chimney Sweep Guild, Jasper.
Absolutely. The members of the National Chimney Sweep Guild aren't just paying to be a member of something, they're investing in the future of education of the industry. They hold a trade show and a convention every year. Chimney sweeps from around the country and world get together to talk about standards, best practices, not only for our homeowners, but for our own health. Cleaning chimneys is not necessarily the best thing for your personal well-being. So we go above and beyond to protect ourselves when we're in our home and protect your home. And the education never stops. We're always learning.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, I know I am, and I'm pretty sure you are. We are both presenters at the National Chimney Sweep Guild Convention, which I believe is in March this year, and that will be in Las Vegas. And we'll both be teaching classes there. I thought we both taught many classes over the years. You know, naturally at my age, I've taught a whole lot more than Jasper is, but hey, Jasper will pass me up one day, but that's the way it is. Now, another organization, if you want to have units installed, if you want to know competent installers, then we recommend that you look at the National Fireplace Institute. They have four different certifications there. One is their hearth design certification. Another one is their gas certification. Another one is their wood certification. And lastly is their pellet certification. So Jasper, what would you say about NFI?
So NFI is an amazing organization. So if I was looking to have my pellet stove cleaned or my gas fireplace worked on, I would look for an NFI gas or pellet certified technician. If I don't have a fireplace and I point to a corner of the room and I say, Mr. Fireplace Man, build me a fireplace over there, I'm looking for an NFI certified installer. I currently hold all of those certifications along with the masters. But the NFI, they do a great job of education. Same thing, they put on a trade show every year, and they try to, the efficiencies of appliances is constantly changing. The technology and electronics in these fireplaces is unbelievable between fans and thermostats and electronic valves for the gas. I really nerd out on that stuff. I love the new fireplaces. I spend a lot of time building them and installing them. But finding an NFI technician is a great idea in the specific field that you're looking for.
Now, keep in mind, we are doing this at Christmas time, but I want to play another news story. Now, the reason I want to play this is this particular news story is not from cold Wisconsin. This is from Sugar Land, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, Texas, which is basically, they are a tropical climate. But what happened last year was they got hit with some severe weather. And what it did, it actually knocked power out, the grid. And this is a news story from Sugar Land, Texas, to kind of bring this home. Because the whole thing is, Jasper, chimney safety and fireplace safety is not just Christmas time. Do you agree with that?
It's year round. It's the middle of the summer, Jerry. We go to carbon monoxide calls in July. It's a year round industry.
It truly is. So I'm going to play this news story. And again, this is from Houston, Texas, in a tropical climate that they had cold weather come in and really knocked the power out. So what happened here, Jasper, was people started using their fireplaces that had never used them. Okay. It's just when you're in tropical, you don't use it. So stick with us. We're going to play this news story for you now.
A grandmother and 3 young children trying to keep warm killed in a fire. It happened at a home on Vista Lakes near Edgewater. That's in the First Colony neighborhood. Grace White has this devastating story.
Sugar Land investigators tell us they've learned from the family's social media post they were using a fireplace inside this house to stay warm overnight. The cause of the fire officially is still under investigation, but we've also learned the mother who survived was disoriented and taken to a hospital in the medical center. Investigators are still waiting to learn if it was in fact carbon monoxide poisoning. This all happened around 2 o'clock this morning in First Colony. The neighborhood had been without power for 8 hours. A 75-year-old grandmother and 3 elementary-aged children were found dead upstairs. Their mother and a friend survived. Emergency crews say they had to restrain the mom to keep her from going back inside to try and save her children. You can see from the damage just how intense this fire was, making it harder for investigators to determine exactly how it started. In Sugar Land, Grace White, KHOU 11 News.
So Jasper, does that bring it home?
That's why we do this, Jerry.
They say that again?
That's why we do this, Jerry, to stop this from happening.
That's it. That's the whole thing about that. That's the whole purpose we do this show. My purpose in doing this is hopefully we will prevent things like that. And that's what guys like Jasper and the guys that work for him, and I've actually been to Jasper's location. I've seen his cut crew. I was up in Wisconsin a few weeks ago and just stopped in to see him one morning there. And, you know, that's what they're all about. And you look at this, and that's what Chimney Sweeps. It's a caring bunch of people that truly cares about their customers. And we find this stuff. Jasper, it's like every day we see multiple things that are shared on Facebook forums amongst these industry members. And it's sickening to you to see this.
It's sad, Jerry. You know, I drove through that ice storm last winter, and it's amazing how a simple inspection of most of those appliances would have found a lot of problems. When you said you live in a tropical area, you don't use your fireplace. And if it's not installed right, you might get away with using it now and then. But if you live up in a climate that you want to use the fireplace more often, those little minor mistakes in construction or building, you're not going to last long. You do a radon test on your house to make sure it's safe. You have the electrical inspected when you buy a house. You have your HVAC system inspected every year, your air conditioning. Your chimney needs to be one of those boxes that you check, that you make sure it's inspected and good to go every year. There's no excuse for tragedies like this, Jerry.
It's really not. And if you look, Jasper, that was not a very old house that we just saw in that fire. I would say that house is much less than 10 years old, could be less than 5 years old, that house we just looked at. Would you agree?
Yeah, and Jerry, I go to a number of fires. I see houses after they're burnt down. A simple bird's nest took out a house. I had to go tramp through the snow last year and help figure out why it burnt. If one technician would have gone on that roof, taken a look, even just with a simple flashlight, he'd have found it and he'd have saved that property.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to end this week's episode of the Fireplace Show. I want to pass along my thanks to Jasper for taking time out of his Friday night in order to share this with you. If you're watching this, please, please feel free to share this on your social media and do it as a customer, as a service to your friends, your neighbors, your customers, because that's what we want to do. We want you to make Christmas memories. We don't want you to make Christmas tragedies. Don't become a statistic. We used to have a motto at the National Chimney Sweep Guild. Don't make an ash of yourself. We used to have bumper stickers like that and all, but don't make an ash of yourself and don't make one of your property. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. It's been an honor, it's been a pleasure, and it's been a privilege. And Jasper, my friend, I want to thank you for being here with me tonight. Is there anything you want to say before we knock out of here?
You know, if we save one person from making one of the mistakes we talked about, it was all worth this hour invested, buddy.
There you go, man. So we'll see you folks next time on the next episode of the Chimney and Fireplace, the Fireplace Show. Got that one mixed up, Jasper. Sorry about that, for the Fireplace Show. Keep in mind, let us know if we can help you. And if you have questions on your fireplace or ideas for shows, let us know. We'll talk to you later. See you next time.